Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. This is a part 2 of the message that was sent to us by our dear brother. The continuation of that message reads like this. So my brother, I stayed at that herbalist house. This was for 2 good days. The first day, as I was staying at that young herbalist house, I ate nothing, and everyone there at that compound just ignored me. Even though this young herbalist had a lot of workers and I saw them eating their food, but they all chose to ignore me. I think that she was the one who had given them this instruction. Then the following day, I felt like giving up. I was really hungry. I then said to myself, if I be a madman, then let me become a madman, but at least let me become a madman when I have eaten some food first. I was planning on going to my city house, the one that I have in the city, not the one that is there in the village. As for that city house, that is where I had to perform some rituals, and these rituals that I perform in the city, they are for people that are not my relatives, like university girls or several women that I choose to sacrifice depending on the demands that will be needed by the altar that was set in that house that I have in the city. In that mansion that is there in the village, there is also another altar, but this altar, sometimes I am only allowed to visit that altar once after a year or after 2 years. But as for the altar that is there in my city house, I was told that I have to regularly go and visit that altar, since it is the one that is closest to me. As I was about to get out of the compound, then that young herbalist came out of her mother's house. Then she sent one of her helpers to tell me that I was only safe when I was inside her compound. If I would walk away from her compound and from her shrine, she could not guarantee my safety. So I had to return to the place where I was sitting, but I was feeling such dizziness from the hunger pains that I had been feeling, because this was like the second day without me eating anything. So when they realized that this man was too hungry to continue sitting at that herbalist compound, when they saw that I was too hungry, then they made some light food for me so that I can eat. Then on the third day, I was told to go into that woman's shrine, which was now inside her mother's bedroom, because after the death of her mother, she then renovated the house such that her mother's bedroom became like a huge temple. I then went inside that temple, and when I went there, she started repeating all of my mistakes that she had told me when I had visited her for the first time. Then she told me that a sacrifice was required of me, and she said that the gods had looked upon me and they had felt sorry for me, and they had given me the freedom to choose whomever that I had wanted to sacrifice. And on the day that I had chosen to do that sacrifice, the sacrifice had to be done in one night. Then I should go back to obeying the oracle, otherwise I will not find mercy in their eyes again. When she was out of the spirit, that young herbalist asked me a lot of questions. Then she said, is there any way if I could get all of these sacrifices? Then I told her that it was going to look so suspicious if I would go back to the village and collect 10 of my relatives and bring them over to the city. Then what would happen if any of my relatives that I would have collected from the village was going to suddenly die? A lot of people was going to be suspicious. Then there was that other thing that had happened when my house that is in the village was being built, of someone dying when that other part of the wall had collapsed on top of my workers when they were busy working. So I needed to do something that would not bring a lot of heat on my side, especially from my relatives' side. Then I suggested to her that I would try to host 2 separate parties, and then I would try to drag the attendees of the party, and I would do the ritual as per required by her oracle. And she said that it was a good thing. She was going to prepare some herbs for me so that she can drag whoever I'll be sleeping with on that day, because this ritual that I was about to perform on that day that I would have chosen, it was going to require a lot of sexual intercourse. Then she said that she was going to help me out on the spiritual side, and I had to sort myself out on the physical side, meaning that I had to go around looking for these young women. But it was a good thing to me because I was always around so many university students and splashing a lot of money. I was like a hot commodity amongst those young, desperate university students. So it didn't take me even a day to plan all of these rituals. I then decided to book this other house, which is a townhouse, and it was really beautiful, not very far from the place where I have my own townhouse. The way that I had planned this, I had told myself that in this house that I had booked, which was not mine, I was going to put some of the ladies there. Then at my place, I was going to put the rest of the ladies, because on that night, someone was supposed to physically die because the blood was required on the altar. A person had to die during the event of those rituals, as I'll be doing the rituals throughout the night. Then someone had to physically die. Then the other 9 ladies, the blood will be taken with time. I hustled for those students, but on that day, it was like heaven was against my plans. I only managed to get into contact with 2 young ladies that I used to date, and they knew that I used to date them both. The rest, whom I knew to be too forward, were just unreachable or booked for the night. So I took those 2 naive girls and I placed them at the booked mansion. I then went around town just looking for regular prostitutes. And what I would do is that as soon as I would get 1 or 3 prostitutes at a time, then I will speak with them and I will tell them the terms and the conditions, everything that I wanted from them. Some will refuse, some will agree. So what would happen is that me and these prostitutes that I would have picked up, I would then have a threesome with them. At the shrine, what had happened is that I had been made to drink a very nasty concoction of herbs that would then turn into poisonous worms. And upon ejaculating inside a woman, I would then insert the poison into her body. And this spiritual worm will start eating up her womb and she will die. But on that same night, she will die a very slow death. The way that the victim will die is that she will have a slow death and she will be so thin, as if she is someone who has severe cancer or who has been infected with HIV and is not on any treatment. Then there was one who was supposed to die. All of these prostitutes, I gave them extra money so that we won't use protection. If they would refuse, then I would chase them out of my car or I would not pick them up. I did this all night. After I had slept with those prostitutes, I then decided to visit those 2 university students. I slept with them one by one, but in a separate room. My brother, then disaster happened because that other lady, after sleeping with her, as she was wiping herself, I do not know what she saw because she started screaming as she was praying. She just kept on saying, "Blood of Jesus, blood of Jesus." And then she said that I was a ritual that had tried to kill her. So the noise was just too much because she kept on calling her friend and she kept saying to her friend that I was a ritualist. My brother, this noise was just too much for me to bear. Then I called that woman who had been assisting me and she told me that we had to get rid of her, but I was not supposed to do this physically because all this while as I was doing this ritual, my hands were supposed to be clean. Everything had to be done in a spiritual way. Then that young herbalist who was assisting me told me that I had to chase this young lady out of my house, in which I did, but she said that she was really scared. So I dragged her to the car. I just went into town and I dumped her in town, and I told her that she was supposed to find her way to wherever she was going to. My brother, that is the last that I saw of her. The very next morning, I woke up and that other young student, she was busy crying as she was speaking with someone else over the phone. And when I asked her what was wrong, she told me that the student whom I had kicked out of my house and I had went and I had dumped her in town, after I had turned around, that is when she tried to cross the street, then she was hit and she was run over by a truck.